There is a simple exercise, one so small, so quiet, that most people will overlook it. But if you give it 4 days, just 4, your life will never feel the same again. Silence is the first step toward inner clarity. Most people underestimate how powerful it can be to simply sit in silence. We live in a world where noise follows us everywhere. Conversations, social media, television, the constant buzzing of notifications, and the endless chatter inside our own heads. We have become so used to this noise that silence almost feels strange, even uncomfortable. But that discomfort is the very reason why silence is so important. When you first sit alone without any distractions, it can feel like you are doing nothing. Your mind may start throwing thoughts at you, memories, worries, things you need to do, things you wish you had done differently. This is normal. It is what the mind does. For years, you have given it constant input, constant stimulation, so when you suddenly stop, it doesn't know how to rest. But here is the truth: beneath all that noise, there is another layer. A place where things are calmer, where you can hear yourself clearly, where you are not reacting to everything happening around you. To reach that place, you first have to pass through the noise. That is why silence feels uncomfortable in the beginning, because it forces you to face everything you have been running from. Imagine a jar full of muddy water. If you keep shaking it, the water will always stay cloudy. The dirt will never settle. But if you put the jar down and leave it alone, slowly the dirt sinks to the bottom, and the water becomes clear. Your mind works in the same way. Silence is putting the jar down. It is allowing the mental dirt, the stress, the overthinking, the endless chatter, to settle so that clarity can rise to the surface. When you sit in silence, you are not trying to force your thoughts to stop. That will only create more tension. Instead, you simply observe. You become the witness. A thought appears, you watch it, and then it goes away. Another thought appears, you watch it, and it goes away too. Slowly you realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the one watching them. This is where clarity begins. When you stop identifying with every single thought and emotion that passes through your mind. At first, even a few minutes of silence might feel impossible. You might reach for your phone without realizing it. You might feel restless or even anxious. But if you stay with it, something shifts. You start to notice the sound of your own breathing, the way the air feels against your skin, the beating of your heart. These small things bring you back to the present moment. And the present moment is the only place where real clarity exists. Over time, you begin to see things differently. Problems that felt overwhelming start to lose their power. Situations that made you angry or anxious no longer control you in the same way. You begin to respond to life instead of reacting to it. This is the gift of silence. It clears the fog in your mind so you can see what truly matters and what doesn't. Silence also teaches you about yourself. When you remove all distractions, you come face to face with your fears, your desires, your regrets, and your dreams. It can be uncomfortable at first because you see parts of yourself you have been avoiding. But only when you see them clearly can you begin to understand them. And only when you understand them can you grow beyond them. Observe your thoughts without judgment. Most people go through life reacting to every thought that crosses their mind as if it were the ultimate truth. A thought appears. Maybe it is about something you regret, something that scares you, or something that makes you angry. And before you even realize it, you are already feeling the emotion, already believing the story that thought carries. But what if you could simply observe your thoughts the way you might watch clouds drifting across the sky? Some clouds are dark and heavy, others are light and soft, but none of them stay forever. Thoughts are the same. They come, they go, they change shape, they dissolve. When you observe them without judgment, you stop giving them the power to control you. At first, this might feel difficult because the habit of reacting is so deeply ingrained. A thought comes, and the mind immediately labels it. This is good, this is bad, this means something about me, this is important, this is dangerous. The labeling happens so fast that you do not even notice it. But the moment you start watching the thought itself, like you would watch a bird flying across the sky, something changes. You begin to see that the thought is just a thought. It is not you. It is not reality. It is simply a small spark of mental energy passing through your awareness. This practice requires patience because the mind will not stop producing thoughts. That is not its job. The mind thinks just as the heart beats and the lungs breathe. You cannot control every thought that appears in your head, but you can control what you do with it. When you observe without judgment, you create a small space between the thought and your reaction. In that space lies your freedom. Instead of immediately believing or resisting the thought, you watch it. Maybe you even name it gently. Hey, this is worry, or this is anger, or this is planning the future again. By naming it, you recognize it for what it is, a temporary guest in the house of your mind. When you stop judging your thoughts, you also stop judging yourself so harshly. Many people feel guilty or ashamed about the things they think, as if having a negative or fearful thought makes them a bad person. But a thought on its own has no meaning until you give it meaning. It is like a wave rising in the ocean. The ocean does not fight the wave, and the wave does not damage the ocean. It comes, it rises, it falls, it disappears. When you observe your thoughts the same way, you begin to experience a deeper peace, because you are no longer caught in the storm of your own mind. Over time, this practice shows you patterns you never noticed before. You might realize that the same thoughts keep coming back again and again, like echoes. Some are based on old fears, some on unfulfilled desires, some on stories you have been carrying for years. When you observe them without judgment, you start to see through them. You realize they are just habits of the mind, not absolute truths. This realization is powerful because it gives you the choice to stop feeding the thoughts that hurt you. You do not have to fight them or push them away. You simply stop giving them your attention, and slowly they lose their strength. Find peace in the space between thoughts. Most people live as if every thought demands their attention, as if the mind is a stage and every idea, every memory, every worry that appears deserves the spotlight. But the truth is, between one thought and the next, there is always a tiny gap, a moment of stillness so brief and so subtle that most people miss it entirely. This space is small, but it carries something extraordinary. It carries the silence you have been searching for, the calm that does not depend on circumstances, the peace that does not need the world to change first. When you begin to notice this space, life starts to feel different. At first, it may only last for a second, a brief pause before the next thought comes rushing in. But even in that second, you can feel something shift. It is like the difference between standing in a crowded, noisy room and suddenly stepping outside into the quiet night air. Nothing on the outside has changed, yet everything inside feels lighter, freer, more open. This is the power hidden in the space between thoughts. The reason most people never experience it is because they are too busy chasing the thoughts themselves. A memory arises, and they run after it. A worry appears, and they start building stories around it. A plan for the future comes up, and they begin to live in it before it even exists. The mind produces thoughts endlessly, like waves rising and falling in the ocean. And people spend their whole lives riding one wave after another without ever noticing the vast, still water beneath it all. That stillness is always there, but you have to slow down enough to see it. You do not have to force your thoughts to stop to find this space. That is where many people get frustrated. They try to control the mind, they try to push thoughts away, and the more they fight them, the louder the thoughts become. The mind does not respond to force, it responds to awareness. When you simply observe, without trying to change anything, the thoughts begin to slow on their own. They rise, they fall, and in between, you begin to catch glimpses of the silence beneath them. With practice, these glimpses become longer. You may be sitting quietly, watching your breath, when for a moment there is no thought at all. Just pure awareness, like a clear sky after a storm. It is in these moments that you feel a deep sense of peace. Not the peace that comes from solving all your problems or fixing the outside world, but the peace that comes from realizing you are more than the constant noise in your head. As you notice this space more often, you start carrying it with you into daily life. In the middle of a stressful situation, you find yourself pausing before reacting. In the middle of a conversation, you notice the silence between words instead of only the words themselves. Slowly, you begin to live from that space rather than from the chaos of nonstop thinking. You realize you do not have to be a prisoner of your own mind. You can let thoughts come and go while you remain anchored in the stillness that exists beneath them all. Release what no longer serves you. Most people carry far more weight than they realize, not on their shoulders, but in their minds and hearts. Old regrets, unspoken words, painful memories, anger toward others, anger toward themselves, fears about the future. These things pile up over the years like stones in a backpack you never take off. You wake up each day feeling heavy without knowing why. You keep moving forward, but with every step, the weight slows you down. And here is the thing, no one else can take that weight off for you. You have to release it yourself. But release does not mean pretending the pain was never there. It does not mean erasing the past or forcing yourself to forget. It means acknowledging what happened, feeling it fully, and then choosing not to carry it anymore. Too often, people try to hold on because holding on feels safer than letting go. They replay old conversations in their heads, thinking it will change something. They cling to grudges as if anger could protect them from being hurt again. They carry guilt as if punishing themselves will somehow undo what has already happened. But none of this changes the past. It only keeps the past alive inside you, over and over, long after the moment itself has ended. Releasing what no longer serves you begins with noticing what you are holding. This alone can be uncomfortable, because it forces you to look directly at what you have avoided for years. Maybe it is a relationship that ended badly, and you still hear their words in your mind. Maybe it is a dream that failed, and you still feel the sting of disappointment every time you think about it. Maybe it is a version of yourself you wish you could be, but no matter how hard you try, you keep falling short. These things sit quietly inside you until you bring them into the light. One way to do this is through simple reflection. You sit down with a pen and paper and ask yourself, what am I carrying that is no longer helping me? You write without judgment, without editing, without worrying about what it says about you. The words might be messy, angry, sad. It does not matter. What matters is getting them out of your head where they have been spinning for years. When you see them on paper, something shifts. They no longer feel like an unshaped weight pressing on your chest. They become clear, and clarity is the first step to release. Letting go also requires forgiveness, but not in the way most people think. Forgiveness is not about saying what happened was okay. It is not about excusing someone else's behavior or denying your own pain. It is about deciding you will no longer let that pain control your life. It is about giving yourself permission to stop reliving the moment that hurt you. When you forgive, you are not setting them free. You are setting yourself free. Sometimes the hardest thing to release is not what others did, but what you did yourself. The mistakes you made, the chances you missed, the things you said in anger, the times you let yourself down. But carrying that guilt does not change the past either. It only keeps you stuck there, unable to move forward. Releasing it means accepting that you are human, that you were learning, that you can do better now. It means choosing to open your hands instead of gripping the pain tighter and tighter until it is all you feel. Listen to your true inner voice. Beneath all the noise of the world and the constant chatter of the mind, there is a quieter voice that often goes unheard. It does not shout. It does not compete with the loud opinions of others or the endless stream of thoughts that fill your head each day. It waits patiently, like a soft current beneath rough waters, speaking in feelings, in gentle nudges, in the sense that something is right for you or wrong for you, even when you cannot explain why. This inner voice has been with you your entire life, but for most people, it becomes buried under layers of expectations, fears, and the need to please others. From a young age, you are taught to listen to everything outside of yourself. Parents, teachers, friends, society. They all give you ideas about what you should do, who you should be, how you should live. Slowly, without realizing it, you begin to ignore your own instincts. You start following paths that were never truly yours, making choices that keep others happy, but leave you feeling restless inside. Over time, the inner voice grows fainter, not because it has disappeared, but because the noise around it has grown so loud. Listening to your true inner voice requires stillness, because it speaks in silence, not in chaos. When you slow down enough to notice your thoughts, your feelings, and the subtle signals your body gives you, you begin to sense the difference between fear and intuition, between what others want for you and what is truly right for you. Fear usually shouts. It comes with tension, urgency, and the feeling that you must decide quickly or everything will fall apart. Intuition, the voice inside, feels different. It is calm. It is steady. It carries a quiet certainty, even when it does not have all the logical answers your mind demands. This inner voice often shows up in small ways first. Maybe it tells you to rest when your mind insists you should keep pushing. Maybe it tells you to walk away from a situation that everyone else says is fine. Maybe it whispers about a dream you have buried because you thought it was impractical or unrealistic. The more you ignore it, the heavier life begins to feel, as if you are moving further and further away from yourself. The more you listen, the more aligned life becomes, not because it becomes easier, but because you are no longer fighting your own nature. Sometimes people fear listening to this voice because they worry it will lead them into chaos, that it will tell them to quit their jobs, end relationships, or make decisions that others will not understand. And the truth is, sometimes it will, but it will never lead you somewhere untrue. It will never push you toward a life that does not fit who you really are. The discomfort often comes from realizing how many choices were made from fear, from pleasing others, or from trying to meet expectations that were never your own. To hear this voice more clearly, you have to create space for it. Silence helps. Time alone helps. Writing helps. Reflection helps. These moments strip away the layers of noise and distraction until the signal underneath becomes stronger. Over time, you start to recognize how it speaks to you. Through feelings, through sudden clarity, through a deep sense of knowing that cannot be explained, but also cannot be ignored. You realize it has always been there, guiding you, waiting for you to finally stop long enough to listen. Small daily actions lead to big transformations. Most people believe change comes from one massive moment, one big decision that flips their life upside down overnight. But real change, the kind that lasts, it almost never works that way. It is not the single choice you make once in your life, but the tiny choices you make every single day, the ones so small they seem almost unimportant in the moment. A glass of water instead of another cup of coffee. 5 minutes of quiet instead of reaching for your phone. Taking the stairs instead of the elevator. Speaking kindly to yourself when your mind wants to be critical. These things seem like nothing when you look at them individually, but stacked together over time, they become the foundation of a completely different life. The problem is that people underestimate the power of small actions because they expect instant results. They meditate once and feel restless, so they say it does not work. They go for a walk for 2 days and do not feel healthier yet, so they quit. They try speaking affirmations in the mirror for 3 mornings and wonder why their confidence has not transformed. But the seed does not become a tree overnight. The caterpillar does not become a butterfly in one afternoon. Nature itself shows you that real growth is slow, steady, and quiet. The same is true for you. The small things you do every day are shaping you in ways you cannot see at first. Think of a drop of water falling on a rock. 1 drop does nothing. 2 drops do nothing. 100 drops leave no mark at all. But let the drops keep falling day after day, year after year, and the rock itself will begin to change shape. Not because of 1 drop, but because of the persistence of many. Your habits work the same way. They carve paths into your life, shaping your mind, your body, your emotions, until one day you look back and realize you are no longer the same person you used to be. This is why it matters less what you do once in a while and more what you do consistently. Reading 1 page a day will finish more books than reading none at all. Writing 1 sentence a day will create more work than waiting until inspiration strikes once a year. 5 minutes of exercise is infinitely better than telling yourself you will start the perfect workout plan someday. Small, daily actions bypass the resistance that big, dramatic changes often bring. They feel manageable, so you actually stick with them. And what you stick with reshapes you. Another secret about small actions is that they build trust with yourself. Every time you keep a small promise to yourself, I will meditate for 5 minutes. I will drink water before bed. I will stretch when I wake up. You prove to yourself that your word means something. Slowly, your self-respect grows. You stop seeing yourself as someone who quits and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. That shift alone can change the entire direction of your life, because confidence is built not by thinking positively, but by witnessing yourself take action over and over again. The beauty of small daily actions is that they also compound in unexpected ways. 5 minutes of meditation might make you calmer, which helps you make better decisions at work, which reduces your stress, which improves your sleep, which gives you more energy to exercise, which boosts your mood, which strengthens your relationships. 1 tiny habit can ripple into every corner of your life, creating changes you never imagined when you first started with something so small. True transformation does not begin with force or with grand, dramatic gestures. It begins quietly, with moments of silence, with watching your thoughts instead of chasing them, with finding peace in the spaces between, with releasing what you no longer need, with listening to the voice inside that has always known the way, and with choosing small, simple actions that slowly, steadily reshape your life. What feels small today becomes strength tomorrow. What feels insignificant in the moment becomes the foundation of everything that follows. Change does not happen all at once. It happens in layers, in breaths, in steps so gentle you hardly notice, until one day you realize you have become someone new, someone freer, someone lighter, someone stronger than you ever thought possible.